Hi, I'm Jewel Abletta.
Hi, I'm Dr. Burns.
Hi, my name is Idara.
And I'm Mr. Gorlick.
Chapter 5. Empty the water here. Friday and Saturday, June 29th to the 30th. Friday, 3 p.m. Inside. Ben Ravnitz was not even sure if he could save his own life. He and his driving partner tried to reach the T-junction. When he finally made it back to base, he met Stanton and Valanthan. "This is madness," Ravnitz said. "We have to call it off because it is not going to happen. People will die, and we don't even know if these kids are alive." The British drivers agreed. With this current, the rains, and the ever-rising waters, diving is simply suicide. Ravnitz gave the bad news to Thai Navy SEAL commanders. He would not accept the judgment. "These boys are from Thailand," the Belgian driver heard him say. "I can't face the public and say we are calling it off. I'm going to send in my Navy SEALs and we are going to try." The experienced cave divers knew that further dives would be a terrible, tragic mistake. The SEALs were young men, some even teenagers, who had never tackled caves. Sending them into the raging currents and jagged rocks would be murder.
Outside. Friday was the third consecutive day of 5 to 7 inches of rainfall. Staff Sergeant Michael Galindo had landed in Thailand the day before with Major Hodges. After a short rest, he set about hiking through the dense tangle of trees and vines in the jungle-covered hills above the flooded cave system. Then he had a piece of luck. He found a gap, dropped a line, and was able to rappel down into a massive cavern. Perhaps this would be an alternative entrance for rescuers, or an exit for whoever was alive in the cave. As he explored, though, the sergeant saw that the space was cut off at both ends by boulders. Hand over hand, he pulled himself up and out. One pathway blocked. The skilled cave divers had called a halt to dives on Thursday. Even the Thai SEAL captain reported that inside the caverns the noise was deafening. The sound, that is, of floodwaters rushing through the system. A second pathway blocked. Despite the focused efforts of the best rescue teams and cave divers in the world, the 12 boys and their coach were sealed into a cave. Everyone, Governor Asatanakorn admitted, is discouraged. The Thai press reported that some parents were losing hope and in tears, while others were unable to sleep or have fainting spells requiring medical attention. Yet there was a tone of optimism and trust, at least what most stated publicly. "I was shocked and crying in Bangkok," one parent said. "I got on the plane and arrived here in the morning. I haven't slept since. I have trust in the rescue officers to do everything in their ability to rescue the kids. At any rate, right now I just want them to be out of the cave. Everything else comes after that. I am confident the kids will survive. They are athletes. I have faith in their strength." Perhaps it was the very combination of dread and a wish to believe in the power of the rescuers that reached the Thai leadership. General Prayut Chanoka, who overruled the intrusive police official, arrived to support and encourage the workers and the families. Parents placed trust in the government, but that also meant the government could be judged on the team's fate. Whether all, some, or worse, none of the team was found alive, every possible resource would be used, 24 hours a day. Hundreds of Thai police officers, SEALs, water workers, and volunteers were devoted to the task. Governor Asatanakorn understood the risks the moment held for everyone. He told the Thai rescue team that if any of them found conditions too dangerous, they were free to leave with no judgment or blame. He did not want even the brave trained Thai SEALs to put their lives in danger. But he asked those who remained to see the boys as their own children. He was the kind of leader who was blunt and fair and inspires everyone to give their best through caring and concern, not fear, and ever more help kept arriving. On Friday, 7 members of the Beijing Peaceland Foundation arrived at the cave from Zimbabwe carrying 500 ropes, an underwater robot, GPS monitors, and other equipment. At first, the Thais, Americans, and Australians were hesitant about what part these volunteers could play. But as the Chinese showed their experience and expertise, they were welcomed as part of the team. On Saturday, 5 more Chinese, these from the Green Boat Emergency Rescue Alliance, reached the cave. They joined Thai and Palestinian volunteers hacking their way through the hilltop jungles, looking for new ways into the caverns. As the Palestinians worked with the Chinese, an Israeli diver who lived in Thailand arrived on the scene with his son to offer their help.
Some 10,000 people from all over Thailand and across the globe were now at the cave. There may have been hints of tension between divers and competitions among nations, yet everyone knew those frictions did not matter at all. The ever more massive effort to find a way through the hills kept yielding promises leads which the Sargent Caverns proved to be dead ends. The American rescue team grabbed their chainsaws and set about clearing a helicopter landing site so drills could be flown to the hills and used to carve down through the limestone. Yet, even once the drills were in place, an impossible challenge would remain, knowing where to aim them. There were no recent precise maps of the caverns. A hole drilled too close to the boys might endanger them, and too far would be useless. Since the rescuers could only guess where the team must be if they are alive, placing the drill hole correctly would be much closer to blind luck than skill. But with the halt to diving, more and more people were sent to scour the hills. The key to everything was water. The last 3 days of continuous and heavy rains have stopped the divers. Larger and larger pumps were now pulling millions of gallons of water out of the caves. Yet even those torrents flooded out, it was not enough to make the cave safe to dive.
Dip in the cave. Teaching the boys to meditate was one gift, a surviving technique. Egg was able to offer them. Another was chores. It set the team to scraping, digging, trying to core out a pathway through the walls. No one discussed how far they might have to dig or whether this would or could work. The effort provided a focus. Egg and the boys created a rotation. Whenever diggers began to flag, a new set who had been resting and gathering their strength replaced them. The work rotation Egg created served two purposes. One, the long haul digging might help them escape and moment to moment. It gave each person a sense of purpose, a reason to have hope. As the dark hours and days went by, older team members looked out for younger ones, encouraging them, helping them to keep up their spirits. Drink, meditate, dig, rest. They were in danger, but they were together, guided by Hick, whom they were now so close to they called him brother, not coach. The white boss were trapped in the darkness, but they were a band of brothers helping one another and doing their best. A sound of whistle. They heard it once. The whistle told the boys something they had believed all along. Adults knew they were missing and were on the way, trying to find them. The boys trusted Egg and adults like him. Their job was to be calm and healthy, and to think about soccer. The World Cup was taking place and the boys had strong favorites. Talking about the matchup, the pairings that were probably taking place kept them engaged. Meditate, work, listen, trust, talk. Minutes, hours, days passed by. Far away in chill, Omar Regadas, a miner in the 2010 had been trapped 2,300 feet underground for 69 days with 32 other men, knew exactly what the team was experiencing. He thought the coach was the key for if through humor, prayer, and group activity he could keep up their spirits, that would make the difference. Arbato Iturabanavid, a psychologist who had worked with the miners in Chile, added his own insight. It's valuable for them to be occupied and have tasks to be responsible for.
Jonathan Detroito, please come to the visitors
Small
booth.
chores. Having a set schedule with activities, all of this should be on a routine basis. Small chores a firm but routine schedule. It was substitute meditation for prayer. Eck was doing precisely what experts and miners had discovered to be the key to survival, if that is, they could be found in time. The more the cave filled with water, the less oxygen remained in the air.
Saturday, June 30th. A break in the weather came, and the rains ebbed and then stopped. The water pumps were working too, which created a new set of volunteers. Fields belonging to 101 rice farmers were drowned under the rivers spilling out of the pumps. None of the farmers minded. Indeed, Sri Tamachok, a farmer whose round face and soft words suggest kindness, depth, and unwavering certainty, explained that she could not eat or sleep so long as the boys were lost. Empty the water here, she urged. If the water reached the children, they would be dead. If the paddy fields were flooded, we could replant the rice. When the Thai government offered to compensate the farmers and provide new seeds for a fresh crop, she refused. I felt bad for the government, she explained. They spent a lot of money already. Teams of Thai SEALs, who had been given quick instructions in cave diving, now entered the cave in waters to stash supplies in Chamber 3. Getting there, even before reaching the forbidding T-junction, was a set of diving, crawling, and rock climbing challenges. Built by nature, not by humans, the caves were like a combination of a maze and an amusement park funhouse. No step was like the last. One moment you could splash across rocks with water at your ankles, the next you needed to dive, a third to climb, and always your only light was a lamp on your helmet. All you could see was a glancing bloom of bright white, illuminating walls made of sharp rocks pointing like sharpened wedges. No step was safe. Sergeant Galindo described the journey to Chamber 3 step by treacherous step. Leaving his staging area, he had to walk for about 5 minutes carrying several 35-pound scuba tanks on his back to reach the cave entrance. Edging down slippery steps made out of muddy sandbags, he managed a 30-degree slope into the dark water, a headlamp his only guide. The sergeant dove to 10 to 15-foot gap until he reached a rope that would help him climb up. But the passage was so narrow and filled with stalactites that to avoid hitting his head or risking his gas tanks, he had to turn upside down, pulling his way along the rope while hanging below it. The rope landed him in Chamber 1, where he had a short walk in a tight space. By the time he got there, water levels had gone down farther than when the first Thai SEALs made the trip, but that only meant he had to walk along through water at shoulder level until he reached the next 30-foot flooded area where he needed to dive. That swim allowed him to reach a 3-foot high space in which he crawled on his hands and knees. Finally, he reached the massive cavern of Chamber 2. Galindo arrived there, wet, muddy, dehydrated, and ready for the final passage. Along the right side of the cavern was a tight path guarded by boulders, which he had to squeeze through and climb over, finding a way up, down, and finally across. This earned him access to a narrow chimney that he could just slide up, if he went slowly and carefully. His next dive took him across another 10 to 15 feet until he reached the slippery slope into Chamber 3. This snaking obstacle course was only the preface, the easy part, before the real danger. As soon as the water levels were low enough to make this trip possible, the tie seals began filling Chamber 3 with supplies. Over several days, they managed to bring in about 100 gas canisters, tents, lights, food, even KFC fried chicken. As their commander explained, we had to dive, we had to walk, we had to climb through stone and rock, but we had to keep fighting. If we did not keep moving, there would not be hope for the children. The base camp in Chamber 3 meant that the expert cave divers could once again attempt to lay a line to and across the T-junction and reach the boys.